Another couple things not to do is don't just summarize the passage and don't just make assertions. Let me explain what I mean by that. If your essay is just a summary of the passage, just goes through the passage line by line and summarizes it and doesn't have any analysis, that will probably get you a reading score of 4, which is good, but your analysis score will be 1. So while summary will play a role in what we're going to write, you can't just summarize. That's not analysis. And maybe you, when you're in your English classes, perhaps you have encountered this where you're trying to write an essay for your teacher and the teacher comes back and says, oh, you just gave plot summary, or you just summarized, you didn't give analysis. And the same thing applies here. And again, we're going to talk about exactly what that means. Second thing, if you only assert that the author and his or her rhetorical strategies are persuasive or effective without actually explaining how or why, that will get you a 2 in the analysis. So for example, if you write things like this and don't go into more detail about them, this is what gets you a 2. Something like, this use of data persuades the audience to believe the argument. Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of obvious. It's like saying, this engine propels the car. It's like, thank you, very interesting, but could you give me more detail, right? It's the same idea here. The appeal to emotion makes the readers feel angry and thus makes the argument more convincing. Again, fine, but how? Get into more detail. The author cites these experts to build his credibility and increase the persuasiveness of the argument. Okay, yes, that's typically why authors cite sources to increase their credibility, but how? Why? Get into more detail. And so on. So these statements aren't wrong. I mean, I don't want to say that if you have a sentence like this in your essay, you're going to get a 2 or something. It's just that if this is all you have, if your analysis is limited to, here's the rhetorical strategy, this rhetorical strategy makes the essay more convincing, period, there's no real analysis there. So we'll go into how to get past the superficial and how to actually get into the analysis to get to that 4. I would say as a rule of thumb, get into the detail, drill down, find the specifics. That's what's going to get you to the high scores. If you think back to our engine analogy, you could break down that engine to maybe even a bolt, and you might have a lot to say about how that bolt works. And it's just a small bolt, but sometimes the smallest piece of something can illuminate something that you wouldn't have noticed in the larger whole if you just looked at the whole thing. So when we're focusing on our analysis, when we pick our rhetorical strategies and then write about them, we really want to get into that fine-grained detail. And in fact, I think I'm going to talk about this in the next video.